Here's a look at a recap of your markets on this Friday, the 25th day of April. Another awful good week in the cattle markets this week. We're going to kick off today talking about negotiated feedlot trade as of the 2 o'clock report cutoff time. Not a lot of volume still for the week. Trade was just finally starting to take place as of that 2 o'clock cutoff time. 13,630 head reported. It's almost a guarantee that there was a lot more trade than that occurred this afternoon after the 2 o'clock cutoff time, but we'll have to wait until Monday to get those numbers in. What trade we did see was quite a bit higher. Live sales ranged from $2 higher in the south to $6 higher in the north. Dress trade was anywhere from steady to $5 higher. Again, we might have seen some higher trade than that after the cutoff time, but those are the confirmed numbers that we have as of this report. In Texas, 1,700 head at 212. Kansas, 3,700 head, 210 to 216. Nebraska reported about 1,700 head, 215 to 218 live, 335 to 340 dressed. Iowa had about 2,600 head, 214 up to 218 on the live side. The dress sells at 335 to 342. Box beef cutout values, quite a bit higher for the week. Choice was up $4.96, closing Friday at $336.48. Select was up $5.56 for the week at $320.11. Volume on Friday, 96 loads of cuts, trimmings, and grinds. The Choice Select spread at $16.37. Taking a look at the auction barns around the state this week. Trade was a bit light at the brick and mortar barns, somewhat due in part to heavy rains last week, especially in the southern parts of the state that limited receipts. Several of the northern auction sales were closed, mostly just off scheduling. So combine those two things together, and that made for a bit of a lighter run at the auction barns this week, about 21,000 head total. A lot of the offering this week was smaller gooseneck loads and odds and ends of calves. There was still several load lots of yearlings that came, but well over the majority of the offering this week was calves under 600 pounds. A lot of those unweaned. The market, however, generally higher for the week at most sales. The calves, the stocker formula for the state of Missouri, based on roughly a 550-pound steer on Friday, 375.02. Once again, an all-time new record for that stocker formula. Taking a look at some of the stick-out sales from around the state this week, drafts bigger than 20 head. Kingsville Livestock Auction, they reported 25 head of 455-pound steers at $440.50. Also, 22 head of 513-pound steers at $421. Statewide, the average price on those light 5 weights this week at $388. Tina Livestock Market, 34 head of 610-pound steers at $363. Windsor Livestock Auction, they had 35 head of steers, 702-pound average weight at $331.50. The average price on those light 7 weights this week at $312. Kingsville Livestock Auction, a full load of 764-pound steers at $320.50. Another full load of 807-pound steers at Kingsville at $299. Going back to Windsor, they sold a full load of 859-pound steers at $290.50. Kingsville had 2 loads of 936-pound steers at $275.25. And then back to Windsor again, a full load of 969-pound steers at $269.50. Few of the heifer drafts that stuck out this week, 35 head of 506-pound heifers at Kingsville. They were tagged as fancy heifers, $378.50. The average price on those light 5 weights statewide at $344. They also had a full load of 709-pound heifers at $310. That was an extreme stick out on those heifers there, but they did go to feed, not back to the farm. The average price on those light 7 weights this week statewide at $282. Taking a look at the futures markets for the week, live cattle $313 to $443 higher. Lean hogs $1.80 to $313 higher, and feeder cattle $343 to $478 higher. On Friday, The live cattle contracts, April 75 cents higher for the day, 214.25. June up 25 at 208.25. August unchanged at 204.10. Feeder cattle for May, 290.52, up 145 for the day. August 294.30, up 160 for the day. September 293.55, up 175. That CME feeder cattle index, it's quite a little bit behind the nearby feeder cattle contract, but based on an 800-pound steer through the auction barn up through the 12-state feeding region, 289.88. Lean hogs on Friday, the May contract 92.80, up 85. June at 101.15, up 122, and July 101.17, up 112. Turning our attention to the grain markets at the elevators around the state this week. Soybean bids were 13 to 38 higher, wheat was 12 to 18 lower, and corn steady to a penny higher. On Friday at the elevators in St. Louis, corn bids at $4.99, Kansas City 438 to 483. Soybean bids, St. Louis 1077, Kansas City 994 to 1069. Wheat bids in St. Louis at 530, Kansas City at 520. Futures markets for the week from the Board of Trade. Soybean contracts were 3 to 14 higher, wheat 14 to 18 lower, corn 3 to 12 lower. Soybeans on Friday, May was down 3 1/4 for the day at 10.49 3/4. July down 2 3/4 at 10.59 1/4. August down 1 1/4 at 10.53. Corn contracts, May 1 1/2 higher, 478 3/4. July up 1 1/2 at 485 1/2. The rest of the contracts fractionally to a penny lower, September at 445 3/4. Wheat contracts, May at 530 up 3/4 cent. July at 545 up a half penny. September at 559 1/2 up a half. Soybean meal for May, $290 a ton even. That was up $1.30 for the day. Soybean oil for May, $49.28 a hundredweight, down 37 cents. With the Missouri Department of Agriculture, that's a recap of your markets for this week. This is Tony Hancock.